Hold on 1 second, all right, before you start. 1 second.
We're good?
Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. Our program is about to begin.
Good afternoon. My name is Eva Malona. I'm the Executive Director of Massachusetts Immigrant and Refugee Advocacy Coalition and the co-chair of the National Partnership for New Americans. And we are really pleased at this moment to announce the New Americans Dream platform that is the vision and the policy agenda for the National Partnership. It's a vision of new Americans for a successful nation of immigrants. As many of you know, you have been with us for many years. Since the beginning, NPNA has been pushing very hard for a national integration agenda. With our partners at MPI, Margie McHugh and Michael Fix, our friends at NCLR, and other colleagues, we have been pushing hard for the creation of the Office of New Americans at the highest level of government. Last summer, we had the pleasure of co-convening with the White House the first integration convening. And last November, we witnessed the President sign the first executive order that called for a national integration policy for our country. And the New Americans Task Force, we didn't get the White House office, but we got a task force on New Americans that is being coordinated at the highest level of government. The Director, Leon Rodriguez, and Cecilia Munoz, the head of the Domestic Policy Council, it's heading. And we are very pleased that the report that came out last March had 48 recommendations as to how best we can have a national integration policy that makes our country a better country by promoting civic, linguistic, economic, and social integration. And on those bases, NPNA, with our partners and colleagues, developed the platform. And at this time, I would like to invite to the mic Tara Rugber, who is the Director of Policy and Advocacy for NPNA, who has been working and doing a remarkable job, not just developing and working with our partners on the platform, but being such a great part of organizing this great conference. So before I hand it over to her, please join me in a big round of applause for our Tara.
Thank you so much, everyone, and thank you, Ava, for the kind words. The American dream is part of our nation's narrative. It's the story we've told ourselves about why we're here and what we're trying to achieve. But for far too many Americans, the American dream is not their reality. Reaching back to America's earliest days, the American dream has been denied to those who work to make it possible. Indigenous people, slaves, and their descendants have been especially disenfranchised. New Americans, too, are often shut out from the dream. The New American Dreams platform seeks to define by immigrants what it means to be a successful nation of immigrants. The platform will broaden and deepen current political discourse about immigration so that candidates and policymakers must acknowledge that immigrants are not numbers but humans, not burdens but contributors, and not criminals but mothers and fathers and laborers and business owners. The platform includes 6 planks: a nation of citizens, English as a gateway, quality education and care, a vibrant and vital economy, a healthy America, and a welcoming and inclusive society. We owe thanks to our amazing member organizations whose recommendations from the community shaped the framework of the platform, as well as a special thanks to several thoughtful editors at the Migration Policy Institute, National Council of La Raza, the National Immigration Law Center, Lutheran Immigrant and Refugee Services, the National Association of Latino Community Asset Builders, the National Skills Coalition, Welcoming America, and many more. Now, here's Rich Stoltz, one of our fantastic board members and the Executive Director of One America.
So words on paper aren't enough, although we're proud of the platform, but there's a lot of work to be done. And you may have noticed, today and tomorrow, presidential candidates will engage with our platform and us and share their own visions for immigrant integration. So that's a beginning. In the coming months, we will make these policy papers come alive. The New American Dreams platform will be run like a campaign. We will build support at the local level and mobilize our constituencies through community action, social media campaigns, story sharing, testimonials, and coordinated press strategies. We will work with national partners to continue taking our platform to candidates, policymakers, and public opinion makers, and our hope is that this platform will be a blueprint and a guide for action to ensure that our communities are treated with the dignity they deserve. Now, the path to power, let me introduce again Josh Hoyt with the National Partnership for New Americans and the Executive Director, and Sarah Lebrusque, Vice President of the Latino Victory Foundation, to talk about how we are going to build the power to make this platform alive.
So hello, we have a beautiful vision through our New American Dreams platform, which is actually in the program book so you can read it. But to achieve it, we're going to need to be very serious about building the political will, in other words, the power to win it. National Partnership for New Americans understands that. And on Thursday, we launched our New American Democracy campaign with our ally, the Latino Victory Foundation. The New American Democracy campaign is the on-ramp, this naturalization, the voter registration of new citizens and the children of immigrants. Our 37 member coalitions will be the boots on the ground. We will work to raise the number of new naturalizations this year to a total of 1 million. We will directly assist 98,000 immigrants with their naturalization and DACA applications, and we will register 45,400 immigrants to vote. Our ally, the Latino Victory Foundation, will take the lead on communications. Sarah Lebrusque.
Good morning. I'm Sarah Lebrusque of the Latino Victory Foundation. We are working towards a government that is inclusive and representative of America today by building a pipeline of Latino leaders, supporting them with a network of donors, and engaging Latino voters, both existing and eligible, to push the policy debates that are important to the community. Currently, there are 8.8 million residents who could apply to naturalize today and be voting as soon as November. So now it's my job and your job and our collective work that can promote the message that people can and should naturalize. Please have a look at our inaugural effort to launch this initiative.
They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists. I'll use the word anchor baby. They're not sending their best. They're taking your jobs, they're taking your money, they're taking everything.
Thank you. We are so pleased and excited to be working on the New American Democracy campaign with the National Partnership for New Americans. So we encourage all of you to use this PSA, to share our media kit, and together we can make this goal happen of naturalizing 1 million immigrants this year. Thank you.
And the National Partnership for New Americans continues to work with our sister organizations, the Fair Immigration Reform Movement and the Movement of Immigrants in America. And here is the new Executive Director of MIA, Gustavo Andrade.
Thank you. Thank you. Se puede. Se puede. Thank you, folks. I want to thank everybody at NPNA, Josh, Ava, Stephen here in New York, Javier, for putting together such a beautiful, beautiful gathering. The firm network, the Fair Immigration Reform Movement, has been fighting for 10 years to win justice for our families, and we're in it till we win it. We have been fasting in New Orleans, and we are going to keep this fight alive until we win. The next phase in the fight is the building of a new membership organization called MIA, the Movement of Immigrants in America. We will recruit 1 million members by year 2020, and we're going to change this country. We're going to do it all together. When my family moved here from Brazil, I was 14 years old. I did not choose to come, but I did choose to stay. And now my responsibility as an immigrant and as a naturalized United States citizen is to be able to share with as many of my people as I possibly can this great privilege to be a part of this country. And I invite you to come with me. We're going to make this happen, and we're going to make sure that whenever any veiled or vaguely orange threats come over from the right, like we saw in this video, that we're going to have the power and the strength necessary to push back. Thank you very much, and si se puede.
Thank you so much, everyone. We will quickly transition to our panel. We have a very excited panel for you. And the title of the panel is What Makes a Nation of Immigrant Works? And I will invite our panelists to join me on the stage. This panel will be a two-part panel. We will hear from members of the administration in terms of the progress that the administration have done, from the White House to head of other agencies, Department of Homeland Security and Department of Labor, as to what has been done since the release of the report and what is next. And then the next, we'll transition to the next panel of policy experts in the country, and we'll hear their perspective and the perspective from the field in terms of what is the best path towards immigrant integration in 2016 and beyond. So please join me on the stage. I am delighted to introduce our panel. Director Leon Rodriguez, the Director of U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Service. We are delighted to have him here with us, and also grateful for all that he has done and his leadership, and he is very committed to things that he says. So within his authority, he always has done, and we've seen progress. So Director Rodriguez, it's a pleasure to have you. He's also the head of the Task Force for New Americans, so I'll leave the podium to him for his special remarks. Then we'll move on to Felicia Escobar and Megan Uzel from the White House and the Department of Labor. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Eva, for that kind introduction, and thank you to the conference organizers for allowing a 10-minute break after Governor Cuomo's rousing speech. It would have been impossible to go right after that. It is always a happy day for me when I am in Brooklyn, New York. I was actually born about an 8-block walk from here at Long Island College Hospital. My first job as an attorney was actually right next door at the Brooklyn DA's office. But what I love about this place, about this borough, is evident if we walk out the door and go over to Fulton Street and walk down the Fulton Street Mall, where you will see businesses, part of that 28% of new business starts that are made by new Americans. You will see job creators, not job takers, but job creators, all along Fulton Street. And then at the end of Fulton Street, you're going to hit the DeKalb Avenue and Atlantic Avenue subway stations. And if you go at any hour of the day, whether it's midnight, 6 a.m., noon, you will see people from all over the world heading off to work somewhere in this city, building families, building careers, strengthening our society. This place, as the governor said, is the laboratory of the American dream. But Brooklyn is just like many other parts of the United States. It's just like Miami, where I eventually grew up. It's like the Washington, D.C. metro area where I live. It's like L.A., it's like Chicago. And it's also like San Bernardino. We can't help today but think of the victims of the San Bernardino massacre. We reflect on the fact that all of them, just like about everybody else in this room, were people who had chosen lives of service to serve the most vulnerable people in our society. 30,000 people with developmental disabilities were seen at that center every year. We can't help but reflect as we read in the papers that among them were immigrants from Iran, from Eritrea, from Mexico, and that many others, undoubtedly, of the victims were children and grandchildren of immigrants. And the strongest message, the strongest defense that we can have against the haters is the lives that those people chose. They chose to come to America. They came with their families. They chose to serve. They chose to be healers. They chose to love. We must have an immigration system that honors those choices that people made. We cannot succumb to what the haters and murderers would have to do. We must honor what they chose. As many of you know, my agency runs the United States refugee system. And recently I've heard some distressing messages coming back from my officers who have been processing and screening individuals from the Middle East. Increasingly in interviews, we are hearing applicants for refugee status concerned that if they come to the United States, they will be harmed, that they will be shot. We hear them increasingly concerned and asking, why do they hate us? All we want is to make a better lives for our family. All we want is a chance at a new start. And yet, as I hear these stories, I reflect on Charles Dickens in A Tale of Two Cities, when he talked about it being the best of times and the worst of times. The stories I've just told you maybe suggest that it may be the worst of times. But if you look around this room, there are people here representing New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, cities all over the United States whose leadership has said, we will be places of welcome. Leaders like Governor Cuomo who say we will be leaders of welcome. And so what I say to my refugee officers, to what I say to those applicants, we are the America you thought we were. We are a place of welcome. So there could be no prouder mission for me than to have this job at this time. I embrace the challenges. And I embrace President Obama's call to us through the Task Force for New Americans to be in every way a welcoming country from a civic, linguistic, and economic perspective, to make room for those refugees, to make room for those new Americans who start businesses and create jobs, to make room for America to continue to be itself. And we have done this, and we will continue to do this with your support, with your partnership, in a number of very concrete and specific ways. First of all, we have launched the Welcoming Communities program. Several of you in here represent cities that entered into Welcoming Communities agreements with us. Many more are yet to come, and many of you, on your own, are doing the work of being welcoming communities. We have launched the Citizenship Awareness Campaign, which is a way through digital media, through print media, through radio media, to communicate people in their language, through their culture, of the benefits of becoming United States citizens and full participants in our society. We have offered credit card processing to make it possible for families of modest means to meet the costs of naturalization. We are exploring, and we're going to be continuing to talk about this through our new fee rule, the possibilities of offering a fee waiver to those individuals between 150 and 200% of poverty. Now, every time that somebody chooses to renew their green card online, what pops up on the screen is a reminder that, in fact, the choice you could be making is a choice of United States citizen. But we're not doing this work alone. Everybody in this room is engaged passionately. I've seen it. I've met you. I've talked to you. Everybody in this room is engaged passionately in the work of keeping America as America, keeping it as a society of welcome. Before I wrap up my remarks, I want to spend a few moments talking about refugees. We have been asked repeatedly whether we can afford to welcome refugees, whether we can follow President Obama's directive that in this year we welcome more refugees than we have in recent years, and that next year we welcome even more, particularly those from the most conflict-ridden parts of the world. And I'm here to say, yes, we can, yes, we will, and we will do it safely. We will do it in a manner that protects the national security of the United States. In fact, we will continue to operate our immigration system in a way that is both safe and welcoming. We will do our job in every way. I was blessed. I was blessed after being born here in Brooklyn to grow up in Miami, Florida. Miami is a city that, like many other cities in this country, was built in every way by immigrants and children of immigrants. The energy of the Miami of my childhood is what I identify as the energy of America. I am committed to continuing to work with all of you to make sure that we all continue together to truly be guardians of the American dream. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Director Rodriguez, for your wonderful remarks and what you have done and you will do for immigrant integration. It is my great pleasure to introduce to you our next speaker, Felicia Escobar, who is the Special Assistant and Senior Advisor to President Obama on integration and immigration policy, and she has been key in writing the report and working on immigrant integration. And I will ask Felicia, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I kind of want to put you on the spot to give us an update and a progress as to, from the time of the report, what the White House has done and the task force and where we are and where we are going. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ava. Thank you, everyone, for being here. It's nice to be outside of Washington, D.C., and all you folks that are, there's so much energy in the room. It's positive energy. We know that this has been a year of ups and downs in the immigration space, so it's always good to take this time to reflect, and this conference always provides that opportunity. All of you should have seen that President sends his regrets. There's a letter from him that everyone should have seen on their chair. Actually, tomorrow he will be speaking at a naturalization ceremony at the Archives, the National Archives, because it's Bill of Rights Day, and we will be talking about the task force's efforts, the broader conversation right now around immigration and refugee issues as well will be something that he will be focused on. But just as Eva asked, I'm going to share a little bit of an update of the task force's report. In the coming days, we will also be releasing our progress report. We were asked in the memorandum that the president created, creating the task force, that we provide a strategic action plan, but also that we provide an update to him because he wants to make sure our federal agencies stay on task. So that report is coming out in the coming days, and just to give you a sense of what's been going on. So as folks have mentioned, our strategic action plan went out earlier this year. It went out in April. Had 16 core goals across 4 areas and 48 recommendations to help us actually achieve those goals. Actions that the federal government is going to be taking proactively to make our goals in the building welcoming community space and also in the civic, economic, and linguistic integration space real. There's been a lot of good work going on. I think we probably have about half of those recommendations, a little bit more than half of those recommendations implemented already, and more coming. In the building welcoming community space, as some of you know, as Leon mentioned, we've launched a new campaign to encourage cities to become more welcoming places. We have 48 cities and counties that have signed on so far, and we've held a convening of those cities at the White House Building Welcoming Welcoming Communities convening earlier this fall to provide those folks with opportunities to engage each other, similar to the way this conference provides those opportunities, but also to connect them with federal partners who can provide them technical assistance and answer questions about how they can plug their welcoming work into federal agency works more broadly. And so that was a wonderful, successful conference. As we think about next year, we will be taking our Welcoming Communities campaign on the road. Our goal is to host in the first half of the year about a dozen regional convenings around the country. We will be working with the folks that have already joined the Welcoming Communities campaign to help us organize those across the country. And we look forward to also working with all of you as well in that effort. And we will continue our outreach to get more cities on board. We've also identified with the current group of folks that are a part of the campaign about 8 core areas of technical assistance that they've identified that they want more information on. And so we will be working with our federal agency partners, but also national organizations to provide help. So issues such as language access, thinking about how the workforce system helps integrate immigrants and refugees into their larger policies and plans as we think about, Megan, I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about the implementation of the new workforce laws. That's going to be very important. So we'll be doing things in that space. Leon's team has been the overachievers in the last 6 months. They've actually been able to move forward on 9 of the 13 recommendations that were in the task force report in the citizenship space. We had a very big launch of our Stand Stronger Citizenship Public Awareness campaign, as folks may have seen, on Citizenship Day on September 16th or September 17th. We will continue to do the work of educating people about citizenship in the naturalization process. We'll weave that into our continued work and work with USCIS, the larger USCIS team on that. The Corporation for National Community Service has also been very busy as well. They have worked with refugee resettlement organizations, YMCA, and Catholic Charities to launch a new Welcoming Communities AmeriCorps program where we're going to be placing about 150 volunteers in nearly 100 communities across the country to help with local integration efforts of local governments, but also the NGO community as well. And they've also instructed through guidance their state offices to look for new opportunities to partner with people at the local level. So we're looking forward to even more work in 2016 coming together. SBA, another one of our high-achieving agencies, has also been very busy as well. Some of you may know our administrator, Maria Contreras-Sweet, is herself an immigrant entrepreneur, and so she has been very busy. They launched something called the Made It in America initiative, where they're helping people connect new Americans who want to start businesses or grow their businesses, connect to SBA tools and resources. They've had held over 80 SBA 101 sessions that are geared towards immigrant and refugee entrepreneurs, and they've worked a lot with local governments on those efforts, but they've also worked with the NGO community and are thinking about how they can expand that program. And then I would just say the Department of Education has also been very busy disseminating best practices. Recent developments, as you all may know, we have reauthorized the No Child Left Behind Act. It's now the Every Student Succeeds Act. There will be a lot of work in that space in the coming months as we think about implementation and making sure that immigrant children, the children of immigrants, are being served in the most appropriate way possible, and that there's real accountability. So we are excited about that new development. Not everything, it's not that often that major laws get passed out of Congress, unfortunately. So it was great to see that law come together, and we're looking forward to implementation. So with that, I will be, if we have time for questions, I'll take questions, and we'll be here throughout the day. I just really want to thank the entire Task Force on New Americans. As I mentioned, Leon's team, Laura Patching, Nathan Stiefel, Mariela Melero, many of you know these folks. They are doing amazing work. Megan's team, every interagency task force member has their own internal working group that is doing all the hard work of implementing these recommendations, and we're going to count on them to help us do even more next year. And I would also just say, in terms of my team, some of you may have interacted with Fatima Noor on my team. She's over there if you haven't, and she's an amazing new American herself. and she's a refugee, and she's gone through the experience of naturalization and full integration with her family. And so having her perspective on our team is really important every day as we think about what more we can do in this space in the time we have left. So thank you all for having us, and we look forward to 2016.
Thank you so much, Felicia. And it's great to hear the progress that has been done, and especially in the area of citizenship. Citizenship has been what defines us as a nation of equal rights and opportunities. So thank you for all of that. And I know in the area of economic integration, there is another convening that Felicia is working on, and that will be hopefully beginning of February. We will have the best summit on the best models of economic integration as part of the report. It is my pleasure at this time to introduce Megan Uzel, the Associate Deputy Secretary for Policy with the Department of Labor. And thank you, Megan, so much for being here and all that you have done. She's been involved with the department for a long time at different capacities, and she will give us an update in terms of the work of the department, and especially in the area of economic integration and other areas regarding the implementation of the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm very grateful to be here. The Department of Labor is very grateful to be able to participate in this conference today, but beyond this conference, we're very grateful to be able to partner with all of you as we move forward in the effort. As Secretary Perez reminds us every day, it's a sprint to the finish. We start every morning hearing that, we end every night hearing that, and so we are truly dedicated and committed to this work. He and our Deputy Secretary, Chris Liu, have been out in the communities across the country trying to work on this themselves, from Nashville to Durham, Tucson, Seattle, and Dayton, and I'm quite certain we will see them across the country throughout 2016 on this effort as well. I wanted to touch very briefly on two issues, the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, and then very briefly on another interagency working group, which we are working very hard on. You may be very familiar, as I'm certain you all are, with the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. This is a considerable undertaking for our department, one we're very excited to do. We are striving over the course of the next year to complete the regulations that we need to in order for the states in the system to transition in the way that it should. But beyond that, I think we're really trying to focus on how we create a system that prioritizes individuals with barriers to employment, career pathway models, including new Americans, individuals with limited English proficiency, and others that can be better served by the system that we have on the ground throughout the country. I hope you are familiar with the Career Pathways Toolkit. This is a document the department recently released, which will help workers acquire marketable skills and industry-recognized credentials. I think this provides information on methods and examples of collaboration. And I would like to say that, thank you very much to our federal partners. We are nothing but collaborative in this process, and we look forward to continuing to work with you as we try to get WIOA stood up and implemented across the country in as expeditious and comprehensive a path possible. That will take us not only through 2016, but it will take our department well beyond that to make sure the system continues to serve the communities as it should. The other item I wanted to touch very briefly on is the work of the Interagency Working Group for the Consistent Enforcement of Federal Labor, Employment, and Immigration Laws. That's a really long title, but essentially this is a working group between the Department of Labor, DHS, ICE in particular, NLRB, the EEOC, and the Department of Justice. Just this morning, we released a progress report that outlines some of the work that we've done over the last 6 months and we will continue to do. And there are two things I would like to note, if I could. The first one is the retaliation fact sheet, which hopefully everyone will find helpful. We all know that retaliation based on exercise of workplace rights is unlawful. We also know that workers are often deterred or prevented from seeking their rights because of the threat of retaliation. So this fact sheet that was issued by the Department of Labor, the Department of Justice, the EEOC, and the NLRB provides clarity that retaliation is unlawful. The second item that we announced this morning was a pilot project between the Department of Labor, the EEOC, the NLRB, and ICE. Our goal in working together through this pilot project is to prevent instances in which ICE and employment or labor enforcement agencies have investigations that come into conflict. Again, we are trying to make sure that everyone and every agency that has enforcement authority is able to use their enforcement authority, but that workers are not manipulated, they're not taken advantage of, and they have the freedom and the space to pursue their rights that they are lawfully entitled to. So I don't want to take much more time. I know we have a tight schedule, but again, like Felicia said, happy to answer any questions that you may have afterward, and I really hope that we can continue to partner beyond this conference.
Thank you so much, and we're looking forward to working with you. So a big round of applause to Director Rodriguez, to Felicia Escobar, and Megan Uzel. Thank you so much. And as I said, we're looking forward to the economic integration, looking into the issues of credentialing and high skills in a couple of months. And I apologize because of the tight schedule. I don't think we have time for any questions. So please allow me to thank the panel, and they will be around for a while. So if you can grab them and answer questions, that would be great. We are transitioning now into the second panel. Experts from the policy field. Thank you so much again. And there will be a clip prepared by Make the Road that you will see in a couple of minutes till the next panel take place. Thank you so much.